Ordinary drivers are qualified to test driving automation. Truth or myth? This one's a myth. Public road beta testing is a thing. It's happening in the US today. What is beta testing? Beta testing is operation in an intended environment of something that isn't quite ready to be released as a product. The expectation is that the software can and probably will have defects. If you were sure it didn't have defects, you wouldn't be testing, you'd be deploying. How does this play out in real vehicles? Well, if you look at the owner manual for a feature that's called full self-driving, even though we know that it requires operator oversight, the owner manual itself says that the feature may make mistakes that require immediate driver intervention. Now, the critical thing here is there's a difference between a mistake and normal intended operation. You might say, well, this particular feature is not intended to be able to see stop vehicles. And if the supervisor knows that this is the characteristic of the system and is appropriately attentive to the road, they know, okay, this thing's not supposed to detect fire trucks, so it's my responsibility to do fire trucks. But that's not a mistake. That's a limitation. And the important difference here, the difference between testing and supervision, is that this software might make outright mistakes. It might say, oh yeah, we're supposed to keep you in the lane, and then for no reason that the driver can tell whatsoever, it might just swerve you off the road due to a software defect. So mistakes mean there's a defect, and the owner's manual says they're there. That makes you a beta tester. Now, the owner's manual also says, well, this is a beta feature. Okay, so this company expects ordinary retail customers to be testers of potentially dangerous technology. And what does it say in the release notes? In fact, the release notes say a compatible thing. They say it may do the wrong thing at the worst time. So this is not a fully mature product ready for deployment. This is in fact testing. And the testing is done by ordinary retail customers. So how does that stack up against typical industry practices? Well, not so well. The issue is that road testing of immature software can cause real harm. Now, the point of doing testing is to do safety validation. And safety validation asks two questions. The first question is, does it do the intended thing correctly? Okay, you're driving down the road, can it actually keep you in the lane correctly? But the other thing you do, especially for safety, is you ask the additional question, does it not have unsafe surprises? And the issue with road testing of beta software is the unsafe surprise part. This means that testers on public roads and other road users as well face the risk of dangerous misbehaviors of an immature software feature. Here's an example of how this goes wrong. There was a crash in the San Francisco Bay Bridge with multiple injuries caused by a beta feature being operated inside the tunnel. The beta feature steered the car left into the fast lane and then applied brakes, causing a pileup. Now, we can blame other drivers for not paying sufficient attention, etc., but they had no reason to believe that someone was testing immature software with defects inside a tunnel. For that matter, the driver wasn't trained as a tester either, as far as we know. He was just a retail customer. The accepted industry practice for on-road testing requires several steps. One is using simulations and a test track before road testing. So you want to have a prior expectation that the features work as advertised before you go out on public roads. You then need to have special training and tester qualification. So a typical discussion with an engineer at a car company involving road testing reveals that they had to go to a test track and undergo special training before they were allowed to take immature under-test software out on public roads. That opportunity is not afforded to normal retail customers who are buying a car, downloading beta software, and then going out and testing on public roads. In fact, driving around with a car isn't actually testing. If you're doing testing, you have a test plan, you have a set of procedures, and you ask questions like, okay, we think that a particular feature of software may have had a problem. Let's say it had a problem going down tunnels. And so what we're going to do is, with extreme caution, we're first going to go down empty tunnels. When that seems okay, we're going to go down tunnels with other traffic using a trained tester who's trained and practiced and has done multiple runs of emergency response drills so they know if something goes wrong, they can react. And by the way, if we notice anomalous behavior in a tunnel, we don't keep going through tunnels to see how often it misbehaves. We say, all right, our car has a problem in tunnels. We're going to avoid tunnels until we think we fixed the problem and validated that with testing in simulation and a test track. So there's no reason to go back and prove over and over again that your car doesn't work. You should be avoiding situations where you know it doesn't work until you can fix them. So what we're seeing with end retail customer testing is there's no test plan, there's no avoidance of known defects. They're just driving around, waiting for something bad to happen and hoping they can avoid it. Release to public customers should only happen after safety validation is completed. You do not take experimental software and put it in the hands of an untrained customer who's just trying to buy a car to get them someplace. Retail customers should never be testing safety. That should be the manufacturer's job. The takeaway is that customers cosplaying as beta tester exposes everyone to undue risk.